So I've noticed something interesting. And that thing interesting is that either people grow their collection from modest or mid-tier watches into their first luxury purchase, such as a Rolex, or whether or not their first watch actually happens to be a Rolex, there usually is a little bit of a disconnection between what they thought the experience of owning a Rolex would be like and what it's actually like to own one. And so I figured I'd put together a video of the top 5 things I wish I knew and most people wish they knew before they bought their first Rolex, because some things may not be quite as you expect them to be, and not necessarily bad, but just different. As I am doing a video on Rolex, I'm of course wearing one of my Rolexes. In this case, I'm wearing my lovely Explorer 2, which I know is kind of silly, but it's probably my favorite Rolex I've ever owned. More so than my Presidents and my Daytonas and even my current GMT Master, but I'm not gonna go down that tangent. But in short, here's the top 5 things that I think people tend to probably not expect when they buy their first Rolex. And the first thing I think they don't expect is it's not gonna make you any cooler. I know this sounds ridiculous, but a lot of people that I meet, I think they had the impression that when they bought a Rolex, they'd be, kind of accepted into this club and people would look up at them and think that they were special and that they'd made it in life. And, no doubt there is a little bit of that. Definitely people out there tend to appreciate people that have been successful, and we tend to look at certain objects as ways people have achieved success. And the same way that you would if somebody was driving a nice car, you can definitely appreciate that they've worked hard, hopefully, and have earned a fair spot and are indulging a little bit in their fortunes. The thing is, though, not everybody's going to look at you like they think you're special. In this day and age in particular, not everybody really cares about what watch you're wearing anyway. A lot of people are happy with their iWatches or their phones or their generic fashion watches from Michael Kors, that really a lot of people aren't going to notice your watch, let alone care. And if they do notice it, they may already have one themselves because they're already into it, in which case they're probably not going to say much to you either. The only people that are really going to think you look cool for having a nice watch are people like us in the watch community. And if you spent any time in this community, you know that we can be a little fickle. Most of us are very open-minded and appreciate all different kinds of watches, but there's definitely large groups of people in the watch community that hate Rolex, hate everything they stand for, and are not going to give you any attention. So hopefully you would never consider buying a watch because it's going to make you look cool, but I'm here to tell you a lot of people probably aren't going to care that you're wearing a Rolex or pay any notice. And if they do really notice your Rolex, that may not be a great thing either, but we'll get to that in a bit. The second thing I want to talk about is a Rolex may not blow your mind in the way you expect it to. Nowadays, if you guys have been collecting, more mid-tier or lower tier watches, you kind of get a sense of there actually are some really nice affordable watches out there. And if you're stepping up into a Rolex from, say, a high-end Seiko, or even like a Hamilton or a nicer Tissot, or even some lower mid-tier brands or lower upper-tier brand, you're not going to notice a massive difference versus the cost. And let me be clear, this isn't me saying Rolexes aren't worth the cost. I think they are. But if you're used to handling high-quality watches, you're not going to have this mind-blowing moment when you first hold a Rolex. An automotive example I could give is Volkswagen Group owns both Volkswagen and Bugatti. If you go from a VW Beetle to a Bugatti Veyron or Chiron, your mind's going to be blown, right? But if you're going from a high-end Seiko to a Rolex, you're not going to get that difference. It's going to be more on the difference of going from maybe a VW Phaeton to an Audi A8. And I know this is a little too nerdy for cars here, but the point is you will notice a difference. There definitely is a high level of precision in manufacturing that Rolex is definitely mastered. But you're not going to be blown away by the quality of a Rolex versus a good quality watch for a couple $100s or a couple $1,000. There's going to be noticeable differences, but it's not going to be the same level of differences. Now, if you're coming from a $10 Casio or a $25 Timex, your mind's going to be blown. But if you're coming from some nicer watches, honestly, you're probably not going to notice that much, and that's okay. And Rolexes still make great watches, and I definitely think they're worth the money. Number 3, so if this is your first big luxury purchase, this is your first Rolex, you may kind of have a little sense of fragility about it. When people first start buying expensive things, if they come from maybe a more humble background or they're not used to spending that kind of money on themselves, there definitely is this thought in the back of your brain of, oh my God, I've strapped a bunch of money to my wrist. And every time you walk down the hall and you maybe bump your watch mistakenly into the wall, or you bump it on your desk or whatever, in the beginning, I know a lot of people, and I've had this happen to me, your heart kind of skips a beat thinking, oh crap, I could just damage my new expensive watch. Because it is kind of something you get used to of carrying around basically a large amount of money strapped to your wrist. In time, you learn that Rolexes are very well made, and odds are, unless you do something crazy stupid to it, it's probably going to be just fine. And after a while, you start just thinking about it as a watch, not this multi-$1,000 thing strapped to your wrist. The cost, at least in my case and most people I know's cases, goes away, and you just start thinking about it as another watch that you own, that you love, not necessarily the $6,000, $10,000, $12,000, $20,000 piece of jewelry strapped to your wrist. So it gets better, but sometimes it jars people in the beginning because they're not really sure how to handle something like this strapped to their wrist. Speaking of it being strapped to your wrist, the fourth thing I want to call out is people are going to make a lot of assumptions about you. You know, when I said it's not going to make you cooler, in some cases it may make people like you less, or it may make people like you but for the wrong reasons. So you may run across some people that are going to make a lot of assumptions about you. For whatever reason, there's a lot of negative stereotypes assumed with being financially successful. I don't fully understand why that is, but I think a lot of people out there hold the thought that people that are successful probably did something crooked or cheated the system or didn't earn it because maybe they've been working hard and they haven't achieved a level of financial success. And so when they see you wearing an expensive piece of jewelry, they might hold it against you. They might think negative things about you. They might assume negative things about you, and you know, it's going to happen. Vice versa, people that notice it and really like it, they may just be focused on the status of it, and they may not care anything about the watch, but they may just assume that you're materialistic like them potentially, and they'll read into it that way. Regardless, at the end of the day, we really shouldn't care what anybody else thinks about us. Really, what people think of us is none of our business. All that matters is what we think of us. But you'll definitely, you know, maybe run across some people that are going to make some assumptions about you. That's just something you get used to and you don't worry about. And last but not least, I talked about this many videos ago when someone I knew, their Rolex stopped working and they needed to get it serviced, and they were basically massively taken back at the proposition of, you know, $500, $600, $700 service on their watch, and they go up much more. I'm assuming this would be about $800 or more to service. But yeah, some people just think they buy the watch and it keeps time for the rest of their life. And I don't really know where that came from, because you can't do that with your cars or any other really mechanical device. I mean, these watches are highly complex, although, you know, their time is relatively standard. It's been around for a long time, but they have a lot of moving parts. They have lubrication that's required of them, and they basically run, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're machines, and like any machine, they need to be serviced. And, you know, with Rolex, I found their service intervals tend to be a little overzealous. I think you can definitely wear them longer than they recommend, but I'm not giving that as advice to you. You do what you think is best. But, you know, regardless, eventually they do need to be serviced, they do need to be lubricated, and it's not cheap. It's going to cost you as much or more than a decent quality entry-level luxury watch in some cases. And it's just something that comes with the territory. And if you're looking to buy your first Rolex, keep that in the back of your mind, that at some point it's going to need service, and it's going to be a multi-$100 or potentially $1,000 plus proposition. And that's just coming with, you got to pay to play. There you go, guys. There's the 5 things that I think that I wish I would have known before I started buying Rolexes, and also that I think a lot of people that tell me that have bought them have run into. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. Thanks as always for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, because more videos are coming. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What, you know, jarred you about your first luxury watch purchase, or the first time you bought a Rolex? What do you wish you had known? I do my best to read all your comments. I really enjoy reading the comments. And yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking. As always, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon on the next video. Later.